It's really an opportunity to be here. After 2 years, we have been locked down in our homes, in our countries. We were all excited to be here. And I'm really very happy that you were able also to come here. In fact, as far as I know, this could probably be one of those conferences that was started to be in person, right? So anyway, what I'm going to present is something that we did immediately after we had this lockdown that we experienced about 2 years ago now. We were caught, unprepared, especially academics like us. We were just told that you can no longer, teach in our schools. Our schools are actually closed. They are locked down. So you have to stay home. Students, you have to stay home. So how do we have to cope with this? We need information and data. We need to find out from our colleagues how they are coping with the unprecedented, decision to keep our teachers or academics and students away from school. Okay? So this is actually the preliminary study that we did immediately 3 months after we have imposed a strict lockdown and quarantine restrictions in my country. So these are the challenges of the work from home scheme for academics during the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19 outbreak was declared as a public health emergency, which is of international, concern. No? That was actually back in January 30 of 2020. And the World Health Organization declared that it was a pandemic on the 11th of March 2020. In the Philippines, even prior to the declaration of the WHO that the COVID-19 was a global pandemic, we already declared the state of public health emergency because the outbreak, of the COVID-19 was actually happening. So we're quite quick on that. So that a week later, lockdown in the entire national capital region in the Philippines was imposed with sweeping measures to contain the spread of COVID-19 virus. And it turns out to be the longest lockdown probably in the world. While other countries were able to manage it, in the Philippines, we have the longest lockdown, to address the spread of COVID-19. A quarter of the total employment in the country, or about almost 11 million workers, including academics, faced job disruptions due to the pandemic. But worse is, strict quarantine measures forced workers to stay home. Okay? So many regulations from the government came out to address how our workers, our academics, and students will have to deal with during the COVID-19 pandemic. The implications of the work from home scheme is nothing new, no, in my country, and probably also in your countries. Primarily because back in 2019, we already have the Telecommuting Act or law, which give workers several alternative means to working, such as at home, staggered time. So when the pandemic came in 2020, this was not totally new to many workers, primarily in the private sector. So what actually were compelled were the non-frontliners who would have to work from home. So workers were presented a different work location and environment and have to adapt to new ways of managing work. Communication and collaboration with coworkers has changed drastically. So earlier, all the topics, like the soft skills, how do you adjust your soft skills that we were talking about earlier when you are no longer, seeing each other physically? So we were already in a virtual environment. So the challenges affect levels of workers' productivity, especially academics. Many of our senior academics were not actually prepared for it. They don't even know how to prepare online materials. They cannot even, operate a computer machine or these apps or softwares that allow you to teach online or on a distance mode. So academics on a work from home scheme was investigated and identified some challenges in this study. And we had to do that 3 months, the first 3 months after we had the first lockdown on the 15th of March in 2020. And that was already about 2 years ago. In fact, in my country, until now, it's only a couple of weeks that, the economy has opened up. The schools are still closed. So 2 years of almost, a total lockdown in many, sectors of the economy. So in this particular study, results are limited to the experiences and insights of academics from higher education institutions in the country, engaged in teaching, research, administrative work, and consultancy. Probably the experience here that, came out of our study would be similar in your countries or in your experiences. Results, however, are time sensitive, primarily because they were derived from the first 3 months of the lockdown. It was done because we needed to get the first-hand information from every, academic that has been, on lockdown. Because we need to institute, policies, regulations, changes in, in dealing with, with the students, and even amongst the faculty and the administration. How do we manage it? There were just so many issues and concerns. But what were these issues and concerns? What were these challenges? We needed to document them. That is why this study was undertaken. So it was an online study of academics, but we tried to use some gender disaggregated data so that we can determine the gender differentials, how the men and women would have been affected by the work from home, arrangement. Started off with, of course, the demographics. In this particular, study, you can see that 2/3 of the respondents are women, and 1/3 are male. Okay, so there were actually over 310 respondents who actually, participated in the survey. Okay, although we wanted to have more, but we had actually this particular period, about 2 weeks, to undertake the study. Okay, so somehow there was some good representation of the samples, and looking at the age bracket, the highest number of respondents in terms of age are those between 40 to 49. You see, there are implications, no, on the age later on, no, how this actually affects the overall, responses of the respondents. So 50 to 59, around 25%, and the least number of respondents were actually age 30. Which means, from this, study, Most of the academics here are bit, middle to senior level, faculty. The demographics of the respondents also show that there is no significant differentials in the nature of work of the respondents or of the academics. In other words, most of the academics, both in the female and male respondents, were actually doing teaching, doing teaching work that actually constitute to about 49% for female and around 39% for male. Of course, the other component of the activities of the academics were research, which is actually higher at 34% for male, while there are around 22% actually from the female. And some admin work is about the same across, the different respondents. The profile of the fields of specialization of academics are given here. In the case of the female, the most number of field of specialization are in social science, education, and humanities. And of course, agriculture, forestry, and biology or veterinary. But in the male, most of the respondents are actually in the area of physics, math, engineering, and science, earth and space sciences, and some actually in the area of social science, education, and humanities. So there's a bit of difference, no, in the nature of the work of our respondents. The employment of the academics actually turned out that most of them, in fact, for male and female, is about close to 69%, no? 69% for male, 67% for female, are actually in government, agencies or institutions. Okay, whereas a small percentage of private, those employed in private, are actually participated in the survey. In other words, the dominant, respondents in this particular study actually are government employees. Looking at the different respondents, you can see that the female has the higher vulnerabilities under the work from home arrangement. If you look at here, the female in almost all areas, they live with elderlies at 31%, living with more than 5 members, under their homes, living with children less than 5 years old, 18%, living with persons with disabilities, another 11%, or living alone, about 2.7%. So the women turns out to be the most, has higher vulnerability under a work from home, arrangement. You can see at the top here that for those without, vulnerabilities, you can see that male has about 35%, and the female has around 21%, which means the men really were not really, exposed to higher vulnerability, in a work from home arrangement. Maybe because the women are by nature, in our society, they are what? They are maternal and nurturer, So they are they have this social construct, that women are really for the homes, taking care of, the family, the home. And that is actually what actually appeared in this particular demographics. Out of the 310 actually workers or academics that participated in the survey, in female, 95% were actually on work from home, while 88% actually from the male. So we looked at the different perceived effects of the work from home arrangement. This is actually related to the general feeling, perceived of the time, motivation to work, and productivity. Let's look at the general feeling of workers or academics while on work from home. It turned out that male were more happier and satisfied and with more excitement with the work from home arrangement. Why is that? Well, based on the survey, men really, thought that having, staying from home is actually an opportunity to be with the family, with the kids, because in a normal situation, men would normally spend more time outside in their work. Okay? So, but in terms of anxiousness and uncertainty or worries, it's actually the female who was higher in at 38%, less than the male at 34%. In other words, women were more anxious, uncertain, and they're more worrisome about the family, that they will get sick or their children will get sick, will have COVID, So the women worries more. And women are also bored, in this particular case, higher than the male. Well, perhaps because, a female has more tasks, that they have to do, at home. However, it is the male who find it stressful and overworked and tired, at home. Maybe because in their jobs, they have to spend multiple meetings, they have to deal with their projects, their tasks, if they are in the upper level management, they have to deal with their employee, their staff, whom they cannot even contact or in communication with. So they are more stressed, more than the women. But the women have more mixed emotions than the male. Maybe because, again, the vulnerabilities are higher for women. And they think that, they have the work, they have to take care of the family, they have to take care of the husband, and everything, inside the home. So the effect of work from home on actual work time can be seen here, that for men, for men, you can see that there is actually less actual work time compared to the women at 49%. Maybe because the women are doing other work other than their job, other than their teaching, research, work with their work at home. Primarily because, again, based on the social, women are, tend to be those that are expected to be doing, the many, maternal and nurtural work, at home. So you can see here, however, that there has no been significant gender differential, in that particular case. What is shown here are photos from the internet, no? That the explanation of the earlier figure was that there is a blurring of the work on work from home arrangement. Women as the response actually showed that they have an increase in actual work time, because that work time does not only constitute the work related to their teaching or research or as an academic, but also their work of being a mother, okay, in the homes. Whereas in the case of the men, the response was there's an increase in actual home time, because it's normal for men who would spend more time, being the head of the family, who does the work, who has to earn for the family. So by having at home, then the actual home time to them is actually increased. So they can do the work while attending to their children, kids, or other things. Okay. So the work from home preference after lockdown or normal has also been looked at. If you see from this figure, the effect of the work from home on motivation to work shows that male are more motivated to work at home compared to female at 25%. Again, the men thought that in this particular study, they are more productive at home because they are more focused. Because when you are actually in the office, men, no, there are other things, and sometimes you have to extend your hours up to late evenings, or you have some social functions, meetings, and So they actually thought that they were more motivated to work at home and they're more productive compared to the women. Whereas the women actually is same as the pre-pandemic condition or situation. Here in this figure shows a significant relationship between the age and the motivation to work and productivity. You can see here that for older workers or academics here, the most motivated are those actually at what is that 50 to 59 actually years old. Okay, so the least motivated are those in the of course 60 or over. In fact, in the academic sector, many of those above 60 or 65 were already considering giving up teaching because they were not prepared for a fully online and distance mode of delivery. They thought that they will not be able to cope, dealing with. In fact, this brings me to, my colleague was asking me earlier, to the panel, the other schemes in education, it is personalized, things, How do you manage a personalized mode of, attending to the students' needs when you have large number of students in a class, for example? So that becomes really difficult. Okay, so in this particular case, men and women with more home time reported higher motivation. So those who have actually declared that they have actually more home time, they have a higher, motivation, as shown here, than those with less home time. We looked at also the work enablers and productivity enhancers. Okay? It turned out that the top three important enablers and productivity enhancers for women are actually uninterrupted work time. In other words, they would wish that there will be no other domestic work that they have to do, okay, other than their actually academic teaching, function. Or they should have a comfortable furniture or infrastructure there, or adequate floor space or workstation. So these are the top three factors that are actually important for women to be able to work properly and stay productive at home. Whereas for men, it turned out in this study that it's actually more on the space and the workstation alone. They didn't actually come up with the other, uh, factors. So again, there is a significant relationship between work enablers or motivating work motivation and productivity. As you can see here, it is actually the adequate floor space which has the highest, percentage that would motivate, people to work at home. Because actually, based on experience, there are many of us, no, who have no suitable or comfortable space to work, at home. And the rest actually are about the same. If given a choice, we asked, if, will you want to go on work from home after the lockdown or in the new normal? Interestingly, men, 58% of men wants to continue to work from home, while women wants to leave their homes. It changed, the dynamics, because in the past, under a normal situation, the men would normally, maybe because the women, you see, have an added, work that they have to do because of their maternal and nurtural, functions as mothers or women. Okay. So reasons for for the work from home preference after the lockdown. So these are, it turned out that for male and female, it is actually for female the better work-life balance, which is 62%. It is much more difficult for women to do the work-life balance compared to men. Okay, and of course the other one for female is the lesser cost expense incurred. Okay, whereas for male it is actually less physical and physiological stress. That is what turned out it was dominant, no, for men. Maybe because men were just focusing at work, and the women has to do the work and the work at home, including probably taking care of the men or their husbands or their partners. Okay. So reasons for non-preference to continue: conflict in work-home time use. This is actually raised by 70% from women. They find it difficult for women to really separate the work, related to their function as an employee or as an academic, to their work at home as a mother, or Okay. So that is really quite what's this evident here.
Conflict. Yeah, that
Okay.
conflict in work home time, right? That crossover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's look at the productivity. These are a couple of slides now left. No? The state of work from home productivity enablers, you can see that it's the hardware. Many, you can see that only 80% of the women. So it is important that in a work from home, you have the machines. As a teacher, as an academic, you have to have the computers and, to be able to softwares and all of that. Okay. Then, in terms of organizational inputs, there were not clear policies, work from home policies and guidelines, for the employees. Enhancing the work from home productivity shows that it is actually through improved connectivity and the presence of hardware and software which actually give them, sorry,
I didn't do
give
that.
them the highest, um, productivity factor. Okay, so because it's always give us a lot of stress, and when our connectivity is really a problem. It's both the teacher and the students. So sometimes the students will tell us, that they have problems with connectivity, or sometimes the teachers will tell the students we have connectivity problems, all this stuff. Okay. So some of the conclusions here is that work from home terms must be clear vis-a-vis the gender needs. Not all male and female academics may qualify for work from home. Provide enablers in order to increase work from home productivity according to the differences in men's and women's situation. Pandemic proofing of research and fieldwork protocols, especially for academics, and wellness program for male and female academics on work from home scheme. Okay, so that's the initial result, and it helped us a lot because we were able to address the pressing challenges and issues facing the academics, who were forced to stay home, in the light of the COVID
Pandemic, right?
19 pandemic. So this was a study undertaken, with the National Research Council of the Philippines, headed by Dr. Sumagaysay, and in my university, I headed a team, in this particular study.
Amazing. Give him a
So
round of applause, Dr.
thank you
Culaba.
and good afternoon.